Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
He loves to make me sweat, Mark. He shows up literally as the music for the show is rolling. I see him pop up in the green room. He does it all the time. I should never doubt him. That's the truth. Welcome back to the Legendary Foods Superhuman Radio Show. We're going to talk about something really important today. A lot of these shows are really important. You know, it's funny. I hear shows recently. I'm not going to name names about stuff that I talked about 6, 8, 9 years ago. And in all fairness, I can't blame these people for just learning about it now. But it's fascinating to me. If you spent time going back through the catalog of shows I've done over the past 10 years, you would never have to listen to anybody else's podcast. You wouldn't. But hey, that's the way it is. So, you know, I gave up caffeine. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to say something that people are going to say, Carl, you're crazy. There's studies showing that caffeine reduces depression. Caffeine is bad. For so many reasons, it's bad. Adenosine is very important to vascular system so that the blood vessels relax. It also, adenosine receptors in the brain can create fatigue even if you're not tired. Adenosine receptors in the brain increase from long-term caffeine use. Remember, all the studies about caffeine raises blood pressure just initially. They didn't look at 10 years of caffeine. They just looked at till it stopped having that effect. Caffeine doesn't really cause blood flow restriction over a short period of time. It goes away. But they didn't look at people consuming what we're consuming today over 10 years. The average cup of coffee is over 200 milligrams of caffeine. Slow release, fast release, all the nitpicking stuff that people throw at. Well, it releases very slow. I'm going to tell you right now, and you heard it here, and I'm not going to be on the air next year most likely, so you better keep this in the back of your mind. We have an epidemic of neuropathic degeneration in this population today. People who aren't diabetic have neuropathy that's keeping them from walking. If you look on Instagram, every other ad on Instagram is to get rid of neuropathy. There's a reason, because I predict that we're going to find out years from now that the neuropathy was caused by all the coffee and caffeine consumption, high energy drinks consumption, big coffees with 200-300 milligrams of caffeine twice a day. You mark my words, we're going to see this. It's just a matter of time. Because when you look at the population, people who work out, people who don't work out, people who have diabetes, people who don't have diabetes, people who have blood pressure problems, people who don't, they're all getting neuropathy. There's one thing in common. They all drink coffee. Mark my words. And there's people out there going, Carl, you're full of crap. That's BS. You watch. I'm predicting it now. Okay. Before we get started, we have to thank Legendary Foods for their generous contribution that's keeping this show on the air. It really is. Ron Penna is single-handedly keeping me doing these shows. And we have to thank him for introducing the sweet roll. If you like Cinnabon, and apparently they're on strike in California right now, pass on Cinnabon and get yourself a sweet roll. They come in cinnamon, chocolate, and wild berry. 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein, 5 net carbs. You'll love them. They taste great. Give them to your kids. They'll think they're eating crap, but they won't be. Send them to school. School starting now. It's a great product. Check it out. Use the code SHR10 when you go to Superhuman. You know what? I haven't done this in so long. I forgot. It's It's shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. Sorry about that. All right, let me get my buddy on here so I can. He keeps me from looking like a jackass. What's going on, man?
I think the two of us together make a united front against cognitive and other kinds of decline.
I say something stupid and you open your mouth up with something brilliant. They forget that I said something stupid. It's a very good relationship we have. Very, very good.
Love it.
Anyway, somebody just put up eating way too much sugar. No, because I know people who are keto and they have neuropathy. No, it's not sugar. I'm telling you. I don't think it's one thing. Usually No, I'm telling you. You Mark. I don't know who this is, so I can't speak to you personally. But you mark my word, it's going to come out eventually. It's going to come out. Everybody in the world drinks coffee, and they drink way too much coffee. Maybe it's not the caffeine. Maybe it's the pesticides that they use on coffee beans. I don't know. But you mark my words. People are getting neuropathy today because of the coffee they drink. Mr. Noots, Mark, how are you?
Fantastic to see you, Carl. It's more fantastic than ever to see you with the insight of what you've been through this last month or so. And you know what I got to say? I am super encouraged because you're sounding as fluent as ever.
Oh, I'm training again. I was literally back in the gym 4 days after I had the stroke. I didn't go in there and try to squat and crush it, but I was training. The reality is, and I have some very intelligent people around me, and we all agree, had I not taken that peptide injection while the ambulance was on its way, I would have been in the hospital for a good month learning how to walk and wipe my ass again.
Which peptide did you do? BPC or something?
Ivermectin beta 4. So over the years, I've talked about this. Someone just went back to a show I did in April, and they said, "Oh, you talked about stroke and TB4." I've talked about stroke and TB4 for at least 5 years, maybe longer. There are two great studies that were done on rodents, and since stuff that happens to rodents seem to happen to people too. If you get the appropriate shot for a human of my size, it's probably 6 milligrams, but I gave myself 5 because that's what was in the vial. Within 6 hours of any ischemic event, whether it's cerebral, whether it's heart, it completely abolishes any scar tissue or necrotic tissue, and they can't even find where you had this. I'm going back in for another MRI. I'm betting now that they're going to say we can't find where you had the stroke, but they had the MRI. They saw it when I was in the hospital. In fact, they were convinced I didn't have a stroke. They said, "Oh, you had a transient ischemic attack," because nobody gets better from a stroke in under an hour. Nobody.
Right.
And I said, "Well, these TIAs, do they produce paralysis on one side of the body?" No. They usually like foggy, like you can't think straight, your vision gets wonky, and then it goes away on its own. I said, "Well, I when I got in that ambulance, they rolled me in a wheelchair. I was drooling. I couldn't. My voice changed because one side of my voice,
the vocal cords,
vocal cords crapped out. I couldn't lift my arm and put it in my lap. I couldn't move my leg. It was like you remember that episode of The Little Rascals where you probably remember it. Watch.
Yeah. I'm an old guy too.
Alfalfa pisses Petey off. And so he puts a dead fish in a sock and he puts his leg and he says, "Look, I can't fight you. My leg is bad." And they're hitting it with a mallet. That was my leg. That was my leg. And so I was paralyzed. But by the time I got to the hospital, I wasn't paralyzed anymore. So how do you explain that? So sure enough, they made me take an MRI and they said, not only did you have an ischemic stroke, but we see some blood. It was hemorrhagic too. And so I had a stroke, and every doctor, every nurse said, "It's a miracle. Thank God." I'm not a big religious guy. I don't put a lot of faith in. I'm spiritual. I believe in kindness and things like that, but I don't believe in organized religion. I don't believe there's somebody I got to pray to. And so, but they all said this is a miracle. Most people come in with that stroke, they're here for a month learning how to walk again.
Yeah.
And I know why. It's thymosin beta 4. That's it. And it shows that in the research. So it's not like as though I came up with this. I just followed it. In fact, a good friend of mine said, I'm his hero because I was brave enough to actually do it.
Well, did you? So, question on that: did you have it in standby? Was it in the
freezer? I was sending out an email to a bunch of potential investors for Gun Leash.
Yep.
And I felt numb, and I was texting with my older daughter, and my left thumb wasn't responding. And I said to Elisa, I think I'm having a stroke. So she said, get up and reconstitute a vial of TB4. I says, I will in a minute. I got to get this email out because this is important. And she got really angry with me. She doesn't usually get angry. She's, a very sweet person. And so I listened to her. I got up. I almost tripped. Like my balance was starting to get wonky on me. I reconstituted. I gave myself an injection. And then I sat back down and I finished my email. And as I'm doing that, now it's like, oh, man.
Coming on.
I can't keep my hand up with the keyboard. And then by the time they got there, they strapped me into the wheelchair because I couldn't even sit up straight. I was just leaning over. I had no control, no agency over my body any longer.
Wow. It was a shock to see it, and it was an absolute pleasure to within 24 hours to have your text with Chastity that you're back in action. That was like a blowaway. So thank you.
I know. And you know who was the sweetest? Wade Lightheart. He sent me the sweetest text message. And I've been doing this show for a long time, but I have a lot of friends because of this show. Some of them are on that side of the camera, and some of them, like you and me, are on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
And the greatest gift I have is 17 years of building friendships and relationships. It's amazing. It really is.
Well, you've moved the needle too. You've really moved the needle. You continue to move the needle, which is really important. There's a lot of guys out there that are spewing bullshit. I just got off a podcast with one, and they would rather surround themselves with conspiracy theorists than to dive deep into the science and say, how do we turn this into something positive? And instead of unifying people and trying to find a common ground where we could actually move forward and address things like and this one was specifically about novel corona and long corona, all the impact of that and brain fog is instead of just spouting crap that is going to get people riled up. Well, it reminds me of I'm watching Homeland, the original series Homeland right now.
Yeah.
And right. And it's that kind of BS. And then I'm also, of course, watching Newsroom because I think Aaron Sorkin is an incredible writer.
Right.
I aspire to be that good a writer someday where every word counts. Every word is succinctly measured by, it's kind of like when you and I think about longevity, we think about Brian Johnson and all the work he's doing right now, where he makes every calorie, fight for its survival in whatever his meal is. So,
is that the guy that's vegan and he's like, I don't know if I know who that is.
He's doing, he was the guy that he founded Braintree and Venmo. He acquired Venmo and then he sold the whole thing for $800 million. He walked away with about $300 million. And now he spends $2 million a year doing anti-aging practices and building a thing called Blueprint, which is his approach to anti-aging. It's pretty interesting. He came from being an LDS, from being a Mormon, and then beating the crap out of himself. Any of us that have built a business from the ground up knows that businesses are not kind to our bodies and minds. And so, right. Yeah. Gun Leash is a great example. These things take their toll. But he's really done a great job of kind of reversing that. And I think, but what's interesting, Carl, is, and this is kind of like if you look at all the dudes in all the people in the anti-aging space, and you look at the people that are the billionaires in the let's get off the planet and repopulate another, terra firma somewhere.
Right.
And then you look at guys like Brian. So Brian's whole thing is don't die. And in contrast, I was talking to Matt Gallant, CEO and business partner the other day. And it's not about don't die. It's about thrive, right?
Right. That's me. That's me.
That's it.
Because we're gonna die.
Yeah.
And the people out there telling you they plan on living to 180, run from them immediately, because they're so full of shit that they're con artists. 120, 130, yeah, maybe with some interventions, 140, but those interventions don't exist yet. But my point is, the idea is to be in full speed of life when you die. I used to say, I want to be running for the bus when I die. I do.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be sitting at home waiting for somebody to change my depends. I want to be involved in life. And then, because even now, I'm 65. I don't feel as good as I did when I was 55. I'm changing. I have my own blueprint I'm working on, by the way, as a result of what's going on. But the reality is that being a power lifter for so many years allows me to cope with stuff that doesn't want to cooperate anymore. Because when you feel the crushing pressure, whatever a heavy squat is for you, or the crushing pressure, the nosebleed from the pull that you're doing, you literally have to manage pain and anxiety, and you learn how to manage pain and anxiety in other areas of life as well. Like when your body doesn't want to cooperate, you know what I mean? You kind of go with the flow a little bit. So the reality is, like, I want to be living. I don't want to just be alive. I want to be living. I want to be traveling. I want to be launching new companies. I want to be doing new stuff. That's really the big thing for me.
It's so funny you say that. We have, when you, there's a great movie called Mr. Nobody. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend people see it. And basically in the movie, they've solved the aging issue. And so everybody lives to be 1,000 years old. And then it goes through a historical on the main character, who does an incredible job. And he lives to be 120. He's the last living human without the Methuselah factor. Right. And so they're doing an interview with him, a newspaper interview, or a media interview, and saying, what was your life like, and what's it like knowing that you're at the end of your days, and those things. And he shares these multiple timelines of his life and these experiences of his life. And in reality, you and I have that same kind of thing. If you went and did a micro log of all of the activities in your life, the cool people you've met, the events that have happened, the near-death experiences you've had, you start taking a look at that and you go, holy shit, man, I have had a really full life.
Yeah.
Right. And my dad told me, my dad died just 2 years ago. And he said, for the last decade, he said, Mark, he goes, if it's time to go, I'm fine with that. I've done so much cool thing. I got some great kids. I got a great life.
That's the way to be. The way not to be is, I just need a couple more days to do the things I didn't do. The way I want to, I don't know if you know this, but I talked about this. By the way, 5 milligrams of thymosin beta-4 is what I took, whoever that is. Awesome. I don't see your screen. So my nuclear family died in the period of 6 years. My father, then my mother, then my sister. And so it just left me. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm the next one to go. Right. I am. And I became so depressed. I couldn't sleep. And I had horrible, for a whole year. I moved out of the bedroom. I didn't want to wake Elisa up every night. I woke up every night in panic attacks, like all about death. And then I recalled, and I've told this story on the show before, I read the book about G. Gordon Liddy, how he overcame it was about him being in clandestine services, but he was afraid of rodents, of rats. And he knew that if he ever got captured, they would use that against him. So short story is, he went to a pet shop, he bought a rat, he took it home, he cooked it, killed it, cooked it, and ate it. He didn't eat the whole thing like a meal, but I'm sure sure. And he got, like, in other words, he faced his fear and he was absolved of it.
He inoculated himself with a rat. Yes. I love that.
So I inoculated myself for the course of about 9 months. Every night before bed, I would think about my death. I'd really get into it. I'd be like, what if the suffocating crush to my chest? I'm laying here, I can't get up. And I started to equate it to snow day. When you have children, they say, oh, No school today. Okay, break out the grilled cheese sandwiches, make some tomato soup. Let's find the movie. There's nothing we can do. We can't go pay bills. We can't go to work. It's snow day.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I am really, 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 really comfortable with my death. Like, it doesn't freak me out like it did anymore. And I think everybody should do death work, I call it, because you can't truly live until you address the one thing that absolutely is going to happen to you, which is you're going to die someday. Like, you got to get into it and get over it and lose the fear. It would be like you and me driving to California. We start in New York, but let's not talk about California. We're going to end up there. Shouldn't we talk about it? No. No, let's not talk about California. That's how silly people are. They don't want to address their death. But that really changed me. And I didn't, I know a lot of people who said they had a stroke or a mild heart attack, and they became so depressed because they realized, oh shit, I'm going to die soon. But because I did death work, I jumped right back into it. I went to the gym, I started training again, and I'm here full force because I'm not afraid to die. I've already addressed it enough where I know what it's going to be like. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to go check out. That's it.
I love it, man. I think that's the part, I call it, I used to call it a fault tolerant physiology. I wanted to create a fault tolerant. When I was bodybuilding, my whole thing was, I want to be able to take bullets from every angle and be able to either dodge or take it head on and no problem. And then that became, in the later years here, I'm 60, almost 62 now, is later years here, it was, it's not how do I create a fault tolerant physiology, it's how do I become an indomitable force, right? So it's no longer defensive, it's empowered, fully empowered.
Right.
How do I get that? And it's really interesting now because I'll go to the local coffee shop here or the local restaurant. We have a great restaurant here called Hawaii, Iowa. And I'll look at people and they'll be half my age dealing with twice as many issues, physiological, neurological issues.
Right.
You get in a light conversation with them, you can tell they're not all there. And it reminds me that we are so fortunate to have embedded ourselves in this technology of health and wellness. And
yes, in this society, this group that we've created, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I see ads on Instagram for 30-year-old guys talking about ED.
Yeah.
I mean, at 30, I could fuck a handful of worms at 30 years old. Like, I don't understand it. But like, what's going on? Like, we're being poisoned every day. The population is being poisoned every day. And it saddens me. It's so sad to me. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Matt Gallant and I have been working diligently for the last 2 years on solving that issue with men permanently, not making it just a pill cure, but actually making it a long-term. And if you start breaking these things apart, I was down at Asprey's recent conference, his conference on longevity and biohacking.
Yeah, right.
The big biohacking event.
Yeah, biohacking.
You know the one. Yeah, the one. And there was one of the most celebrated companies out there. There were two that were doing really well. One is Magical Butter Machine. The Magical Butter guys that do the extraction technology. They just created a grow system that I think is absolutely world class. And then the other was a penis pump company. They were right across the hall from them, doing a penis pump. And in talking to this guy and his adorable wife, talking to him about this and he's from Italy, and it was really interesting to see him talking about what are the factors, what are the cofactors. We know about sonic technology, right? Use it, right? Breaking loose.
But that only works if you have plaque in your penis. If you don't have plaque, it's not going to do anything. Go ahead.
No. It's just going to give you a black and blue dick.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So there's a thing called venous leakage, which is popular as well. And there's also just getting your freaking hormones. If men would do like I just bought a leg machine over here in the corner. So I've got a full leg, a curl extension and press. Right. And the amount of testosterone boost I get just from that alone, large muscle work, makes a significant, and plus the cardiovascular benefits, all the rest are the Kegel
benefit. Listen, if you learn to squat and you start adding weight, the Kegel that you're doing is better than buying an app and doing 65 every 5 minutes. Like
Exactly.
because you know you know that you have strong Kegel power, because when you're down there in the hole and you're pushing out, and
Yep.
I'm not going to brag, but and the fact that you don't shit yourself means that you got like super Kegel power. Okay, so guys, forget the apps, forget sitting in your chair and squeezing your butt. Just do 10 squats every now and then, and get deep into that squat so that you literally look like you're going to poop. That's a super Kegel. That's what that is.
It is. No, dude, it's so funny. When I do that, my body actually shudders. If I haven't done them in a couple of days, my body shudders with the kind of this release. I'm sure that these chakra-based people are going, yeah, man, that's the third chakra getting all energized.
But it's amazing. We have endocrine disruptors on top of endocrine disruptors. And we're wondering why fertility is in the shithole. We're wondering why guys can't get erections. We're wondering why people think that they're gay. People, you know what?
Yeah.
There's good research that shows that if in utero, if your mother has like raging levels of DHT and then it drops and it becomes estradiol, the brain forms last, the genitals form first. You have a penis, but you're attracted to men. This is not a phenomenon that is lost on scientists. We are being destroyed by the companies that make the chemicals and put it in our food, and the FDA has they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care. I mean, it's really sad what's going on today. Young men at 30 years old searching for PDE5 inhibitors to help them. I mean, it's really sad. Really sad.
It is. It's so funny when we released this product, when Matt and I released this product, we're actually our code word for it is girth and hang.
I like that.
I'll send you a shirt. I'll send you a shirt.
Yeah. So let's talk about something else that's important. I really think that we are caffeine nation today. And I believe there's a lot of problems with caffeine. I think a lot of people who have chronic fatigue developed it because of high caffeine consumption.
Yep.
I've gotten away from caffeine, but what I use is Collagenius. The salted caramel is unbelievable, and the cocoa, the chocolate. I use 4 scoops because I'm a gavone. I like, I want to chew my coffee in the morning. My coffee in the morning. But yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I love this stuff. So talk about the mushrooms that are in it and all that sort of stuff.
One is I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I put inline skate wheels on my chair in it.
Oh man.
Yeah. Pretty high speed.
Yeah.
And here's the salted caramel, which is coming out pretty quick here.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But it's starting with lion's mane, right? Lion's mane, red reishi, right? The idea behind Collagenius was essentially I was building a nootropic capsule with highly extracted nootropic mushrooms, and what I wanted was, you mentioned this on the caffeine side. What I wanted was an adaptogenic blend that also had the brain-derived nootropic factors, BDNF, which is really well known on a number of these.
Good for post-stroke, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. You want to build those glial cells, and the neurons.
Neuroplasticity, everything.
Yeah. And people don't realize it's not just about the neurons. There's a supporting framework around that. We talk about glial cells, right? So you've got white matter, you've got gray matter. Super important. You need a lot of healthy cholesterol in the brain. Keep that omega-3s happening, and then also getting rid of inflammatory factors that are going to cause negative response. If your body is so overloaded with inflammatory factors, it doesn't have the additional potential to be able to start doing some of the things like correcting brain issues, aneurysms, similar. And so you need that. By the way, I'm going to break for just a second, but I made you, based on the insights that I got from both your posts and the dialogue that we've had through Chastity and Wade, is I made you a new capsule that I'll be sending you. Cardio caps are great. This is
I
the
love
next.
them. I love
This is the
cardio
next
caps.
scale of and I really went out on this one. This one is really good. We've got some very powerful vitamin K2 in this.
Mm-hmm.
We've got
Oh,
nattokinase, right? Nattokinase.
right.
Niacinamide.
This is great for blood flow. I mean, it's amazing. I'm actually taking it by itself right now.
Nice. It's big. So we got niacinamide, we've got calcium AKG, pterostilbene, and then we've got a big mix on top of that activates all of it. So I'll
and
be
the
sending
interesting thing
you.
about calcium AKG is that's the one that was done on the study. They used calcium, not AAKG, not arginine.
No, calcium.
The calcium ketoglutarate was the one they used on the studies that were reversed aging.
Yep. Yeah, it's powerful, man. And these combined elements, it's really interesting as you're building stacks, whether it's collagenous or you're building some capsules or you're building a powder like Nectar X, is when you're building stacks, it takes hundreds, if not thousands of iterations to be able to really get the balance of elements right so that you get the orchestration of neurotransmitters and also other cofactors like adaptogens, right? Like antioxidants, so that the end result is significantly greater than the amount of compounds that are in those factors. So yeah, it's been a big one.
Isn't vinpocetine in there in the cardio cap?
We originally had vinpocetine. The FDA has basically blacklisted vinpocetine again. Yep. Vincamine, the compound in vinpocetine that was most effective for elevating blood flow, especially inside the blood-brain barrier, was so good that who got to it and what's happened since then. So
yeah, they always do it. That's what they did with NMN. The reason the FDA is banning NMN is not because it's dangerous, because it's a placeholder for a pharmaceutical drug to be made. So they're taking it off the market until the pharmaceutical company can come out with their version of it. The FDA should not be providing oversight for pharmaceutical companies because they get paid by them. How many crack busts would you think cops would make if their paychecks were paid by the crack dealers? They don't want to
exactly. No, you can't be in cahoots with the same people that you're supposed to be providing oversight to. And yes, and then also I hate to say this because I sound like an asshole, but David Sinclair should be blacklisted from the industry.
Well, he's the one. What I've heard is he's the one who wants to come out with an NMN pharmaceutical product.
Correct. So he actually he did his research at Harvard in NM and then NMN, and it did all the research, got all the companies, got everybody going, hey, go make this. And now he's going, now that you've proven the market, now that everybody's hungry for this, we're going to shut you all down and I'm going to be the one supplier. And he acts like he's all innocent, but this bastard, it's the second time he's done it.
He's altruistic. He acts like he's good. He's
right.
Yeah, he's no different than Bill Gates or the rest of them.
Yep.
So,
by the way, if you get a chance, I just read. This is sad. I just read Bill Gates' blog on his Gates and Company, and he just did the history. He started with the history of the graphical user interface, and how he and Samoji, his one of his early employees at Microsoft, how they created the GUI interface. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, hold it. I remember Steve Jobs introducing you to GUI. I remember Steve getting it from Xerox PARC.
Right.
And it's the winners write history, right?
Right. Yeah.
Anyhow.
Let's talk about the cocoa. Cocoa's making a big noise right now. Cacao, cocoa, like good for the heart, good for the blood vessels, good for the brain. Talk about the quality of the cocoa. That the cocoa in your collagenous is so rich. It's unbelievable.
Unmatched. And here's I mentioned, Carl, that we have a laboratory in Bosnia. It's part of the Birch University. We've got now, I think we have 23 or 24 full-time employees for us there. And we're doing another separate lab as well. And all they do is they take each of the extracts, each of the compounds. We have them, everything that's sent to my lab here in Burlington, Iowa, we have sent to Bosnia, and they do exhaustive testing. HPLC machine. They do, in vitro, in vivo testing. They do all of this. We've got a rat lab starting right now. They do all of these compound analysis. And I have to tell you something. This is super important. There are so many compounds. I don't care if it's Chinese, manufacturers or suppliers, if it's Brazilian, if it's UK, if it's Australian, New Zealand. It does not matter. There are many compounds. We only find about between 10 and 12% of the compounds that we get in actually have even near the stated level of the certain terpenes, oils, extracts, whatever in that. Many of them don't have any. We have mushroom extracts that we've sent over there that don't have any of the mushroom compound that they said.
Right.
Yeah. And it's really important to have really good quality control, multi-levels of quality control, and to understand and then build a relationship with your suppliers if you're going to do that.
Well, and what you're saying is something that's been a problem for a long time. You got get newbies who read a study. They're like, I want to make a supplement, and they accept the COA from the supplier. They go, well, that removes any vulnerability from me. Look, it says it, but they don't mass spec their own stuff. They don't want to pay for it.
Right.
And the customer's buying something that doesn't have any of the active ingredients in it quite often. And then they wonder why it doesn't work. And then that particular compound gets a bad rap that it doesn't work. No, it works if it's standardized for whatever you're supposed to be taking. It's the pharmaceutical industry does the same thing, believe it or not. They buy from China. I had a friend that worked for a very big company, and they sold growth hormone, and she told me that they just got it from China, and they put their label on it. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway. So I want to put this up real quick. So if you want to try something, if you're a coffee drinker and you're like me, you're suspicious of the quality of coffee that you're drinking, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/genius and save 10% off using the code SHR10 and try Collagenius yourself. We didn't even talk about the collagen, which we're going to take a break and talk about that. We talked about the mushrooms and what they do. We talked about the quality of the cocoa and what it does. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the collagen, especially if you're a woman and you care about the quality of your skin and hair. You're going to want to make sure you're getting plenty of collagen in your diet. And most of us don't get collagen in our diet. We don't eat tough meat where there's more collagen. We don't. You may be buying a collagen supplement that's really expensive and you're taking 1 scoop a day. That's not enough. So we're going to talk about the collagen aspect when we come back as well. How's that sound?
Awesome.
I promise you, the breaks are very short right now. So stay with us. We'll be right back. There are lots of concerns about food supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off.
Hey guys, it's time to change your underwear, and it's time to change to Sheath. Sheath's underwear's revolutionary designs allows your man parts to hang the way they would naturally hang if you were not wearing underwear. And this improves the blood flow throughout the day to the twigs and berries. If you've never experienced wearing a pair of Sheath underwear, boy, is there an exciting experience waiting for you. Grab a pen and write this down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/sheath. That's SHEATH. And use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off your first pair. And get this, if you're not completely satisfied, send them back for a full refund. That's shrnetwork.biz/sheath.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
That 15% off at White Oak Pastures is just your first order. I want to make sure people understand that. And before we move any further, I eat a lot of protein. I'm getting older. It doesn't mean that I digest it well. It doesn't mean that I'm getting the benefits of all the amino acids in it. And that's very important to me. And I just ordered more yesterday. You can get a free bottle of P3OM. Don't think of it as a probiotic. Think of it as a bunch of little machines that will help break down the protein into amino acids for you. And I stack it. I stack it with both Masszyme and I stack it with HCL Breakthrough. Every effing meal. Every meal. Because I need to continue to build muscle at my advanced age. That's right. I'm advanced. I have Medicare now. I'm advanced age. And this is what helps me. Go to shrnetwork.biz/P, the number 3, OM free. P, the number 3, OMFREE to get your free bottle of P3OM. Try it. Next time you eat a bunch of steak, watch what happens. The food digests effortlessly. It's gone. Your stomach feels lighter. And that's because P3OM helps you digest proteins. And do yourself a favor. While you're there picking up a free bottle, pick up a bottle of HCL Breakthrough and Masszymes and stack all 3 of those in the recommended dose on the bottle with every single high protein meal you eat, and watch what happens. Not only will you feel better, your gut will feel better, but you will notice changes in muscle creation in your body. There's no doubt about it. I promise you. Check it out. Okay. Let's get back to what we were talking about here. So, talk about the collagen. You have several different types of collagen in this product, right?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, what was really interesting as we were going through collagen, we started noticing that because we've got your typical bovine collagen, right? And we also have and we have a vegetarian version of this coming out pretty quick here. Now, there is no vegetarian collagen, but there are precursors to collagen available in the vegetarian world. Yeah. And so those inspire collagen to be created in your body. But in this, we've got both bovine and we've got fish collagen on that as well. And the combination does some really interesting. The way that it penetrates the cell, the way that it populates the cell, and the way that it manages the cell are all very different. And by combining these multiple types of collagen, we're able to get a 360-degree induction into the cell and actually do a lot more repair and restoration and anti-aging characteristics. One of the things you'll notice is over a fairly short amount of time, 30 to 90 days, you'll notice your skin is much more pliable. Your fingernails will be growing a lot faster. Mm-hmm. Your hair will get thicker, right? All of these really interesting characteristics that are just a byproduct of having sufficient levels of collagen in your system. And we're all running low on collagen. I may be 62, but I was running low on collagen by the time I was about 30.
Right.
So,
right. I know we don't eat the collagen precursors quite often. Muscle meat is only a collagen precursor when it's tough.
Yep.
And nobody wants to eat the tough meats. So and like you said, so many people eat vegetarian and vegan today, not because they're devout vegans, but they think it's healthier. It's not necessarily healthier, but if that's all you're eating, then you need a supplement. And this is an amazing supplement. I want to put this up one more time. This is I love this stuff. I actually, when Mark first sent it to me, actually, probably Chastity sent it to me.
Exactly.
It was in an unlabeled jar. I literally ate it with a spoon. I just stuck the spoon in and threw it in my mouth. I let it get moist. I swallowed it. It was unbelievable. It's so good. In fact, if you remember, I made chocolate candy out of it by adding coconut oil to it and then putting it in the refrigerator. It was amazing to eat in the morning.
Super fat bombs.
Yeah, it was great. Go to shrnetwork.biz/genius and get yours today. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. While you're there, shop around. They have a lot of good stuff. So check that out, please. So we have questions for you. Whenever we have you on the show, people have questions. This is from Taylor C. He's a longtime friend of the show. He says, what do you think about lithium orotate? No one talks about this cheap supplement, and it seems to work. What do you think?
So serotonergic activity on lithium orotate can be really valuable, especially for people that have been either caught in the SSRI issues, where selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, typically used for depression or for mood control, mood management. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is not doctor advice. This is just Mr. Newt's talking out his butt. But I've had a lot of experience with depressive situations personally when I was younger, and then with both family members and a ton of clients later on. Lithium orotate is really safe. It can be an adjunct. When you're taking an SSRI, I would very much recommend that you go see your whoever your medical professional is if you're doing that. But one of the benefits of lithium orotate is rather than recycle serotonin, trap serotonin between the synapse, causing your body to signal, or your brain to signal that you don't need any more serotonin, which causes a depletion of serotonin, which causes this cycle of taking the med, getting the serotonin, stabilizing mood, often stabilizing mood to the point where you don't feel anything. I've seen so many people have come to me and said, gosh, I'm on these, I started these, I had this depressive event, or I feel, biochemically depressed. And most of those people also say to me, and I don't exercise, right? Training is the cure to so much of that. And then they take an SSRI, and then the SSRI puts them into a neutral mood. 6 months later, they'll call me and say, I want to put a gun to my head. I don't feel
nothing. Life offers nothing. Think about it. It's terrible.
Yeah. A lot of it, male and female, can't orgasm.
Oh yeah. It's like a frontal lobotomy in a pill. And that's the other thing, because dopamine and serotonin must do this dance in order for you to have an orgasm. And if serotonin isn't cooperating, you don't come. That's it.
Yep. So lithium orotate's great. I would recommend cycling it. It can be really valuable, but you want to make sure that you don't build tolerance to those compounds. And also, you don't want to build up an excess of lithium. An excess of lithium in the body can become toxic.
I was going to ask you that, because I remember reading one time that you only need to take lithium orotate for a while, because it like a lot of things that are metallic in nature.
Yeah.
They stay in your brain. It stays there. It just provokes that same response, but it just stays there. So would you recommend using lithium orotate for a short time, and then every now and then, 1 to 2, 3 times a month, doing a dose?
Exactly. And you can kind of tell, there's usually a couple of indicators, pre-indicators of when you're going to need it. When you start feeling that you're not able to address, you can't confront issues, or you're crying at a Star Trek episode, that's usually an indicator something's wrong. And it wasn't just Spock, it was something major. And so it's really important to be able to do that. And the other is, I would take something like, this is not a pitch, but it may sound like it, but we have a thing called Mental Reboot, and we have a product called Upbeat. Mental Reboot is a compound that you take a pill at night, you take a sublingual in the morning. And what that does is it takes advantage of the body's own detoxification process and amplifies it so that you get all of the crap out of your brain, or a significant portion of the crap out of your brain, using your brain's own brain shrinkage and cerebral spinal fluid flow across the capillaries to pull out those toxins. It magnifies and amplifies that effect, so you wake up crisp. And then you take the morning dose, which increases your neurotransmitters that are key to you having high cognitive function during the day, like acetylcholine. And that two combination, you may find, not only does it work well with something like lithium orotate, but you may find that you don't need lithium orotate once you get your brain detoxified. And then we also have a product called Upbeat, which is specifically made to naturally increase basically all the precursors to serotonin, so that you've got them available, and that keeps the usage of serotonin. If you go into a serotonin depletion, it keeps that from happening, while also at the same time just making you feel overall better. So
backloads it. Taylor, I can't put the other question up because YouTube wants to kick me off, and if I put anything up that has those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters in the word, they're going to kick me off. They went 6 years back to find a show to give me my second strike. And so if I have
Jeez.
one more strike, my YouTube channel is gone. So, but this one I'll put up because we're talking kind of about the reboot, which is that helps elevate GABA, doesn't it?
Yeah, big time, big time. And part of it is because you're reducing the overhead on your brain, right? Because now that you're detoxifying, we talked about, we talked a little bit earlier in this episode about how inflammation becomes a significant overhead, and your body has a hard time processing when it's fighting inflammation, when it's fighting oxidative stress, when your body is, you talked about caffeine earlier, when you've got when your adrenals are not working well because you fucked them up with a significant amount of caffeination, and you're always trying to catch that.
It started in my teens when I started buying Black Beauties and favoring speed. We used to call it speed. We didn't call it meth. And favoring speed. Like I was always a Coke, speed, LSD, anything that lifted me up and I could drink more all night long and still keep dancing. Like that was what I was about. I wasn't a Quaalude guy. I wasn't a second all or two and all guy.
Yeah, none of the downers.
It just made you sloppy, and I wanted to be up, so I gravitated towards stims my whole life.
Yeah. I have some great experiences. I'll share some time on that. But yeah, it's really important to do that. We go back to GABA. So here's another couple things we do. One is we make a product called GABAlicious, which was specifically made. I made it as an alternative to having a martini.
Right.
And the idea was it's not going to give you the lack of control, but it is going to give you the verbal fluency. It's going to make you feel a little more social. It's going to take the edge off after a hard day's work or whatever happens to be the thing. And you can actually take it all day during the day and increase functionality, because if you're GABA deficient, anxiety is going to be a real problem for you. It's going to cause collapse. The other is, and again, I hate to make it sound like a pitch or anything, but I made this specifically. It's called Zamner juice.
Oh, yeah, Zan, yeah.
Yeah, and it's an instantaneous GABA hit. You take it, you spray it into your tongue, 4, 5, 6 sprays. And if you're in a moment of anxiety, or if you've got a lack of GABA, this will replace GABA instantly without depleting GABA. In other words, it doesn't put you in a cycle where you've got the GABA, and so it's signaling to your body to quit creating GABA. It's giving you all of the GABA precursors necessary to create and energize GABA and get it through now GABA doesn't typically flow through the blood-brain barrier, but there are precursors to GABA that do. So we combine both. So you've got some GABA going into your gut level. That becomes a signaling molecule that then triggers the brain to create GABA. Mm-hmm. And when it creates GABA, then you get this relaxation without losing your clarity or your drive or your energy.
Is that the way, like back in the day, 5 grams of GABA increased growth hormone fivefold. I used to take it before bed. It would actually give me like paresthesia, shortness of breath. But then I read it doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier. So why is it doing that? And so it's provoking the brain to produce an equally high level of GABA. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you were probably taking with arginine, maybe, arginine. Could you? Oh, okay, taking a lunch.
Melatonin and 5 grams of GABA. Tastes like cheese.
Yeah.
Tastes like cheese. I actually made transdermal GABA, and it worked. I used Flowgel Ultra. Yeah, but I smelled like cheese. I smelled like that stinky GABA.
Oh my God, yeah, it's bad. It's like doing DMSO and don't smell like fish, right?
I first learned about DMSO working on the racetrack. We used to use it on the horses to blister them, or we would use it as an agent to carry iodine into the skin when we were trying to get it to the bone. And the DMSO we had back then would be frozen in the summertime. It would be like the 100% stuff we get it at the tack and saddle shop. And I used to have a little box on the wall with all my brushes, my curry comb, and there would be a little bottle of DMSO, and you can see all the crystals in it. It was so cool. And it's like 80 degrees out. It's frozen. So cool.
Yeah. Oh, amazing stuff, man.
Thank you, Richard Miller, the fitness freak. I am the Carlo Gambino of health and fitness. Forget about it. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We have to take. No, that's it. No, yeah, we have to take one more commercial break. Just stay with me, and then we'll wrap up the show. Just
you got it, brother.
Stay here with me. I'll be right back. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. BPC is one of the most amazing supplements you can use. It's been shown to increase the speed of recovery, heal the gut, and do so many other things. BPC stands for Body Protection Compound, and it's a naturally occurring peptide in the body. Used by professional athletes and weekend warriors alike, there has always been an obstacle in the way of average people using BPC, and that is it was injectable only. Not any longer, thanks to Nutrineeds. We now have oral BPC, and it works. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Nutrineeds, NUTRANEEDS. Use the code SHR and save 10% off your bottle of BPC. Feel better, recover faster, train harder. Nutrineeds.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Welcome back.
Hey.
So we're promoting a product today that you should try instead of coffee in the morning. And I can tell you that I love this stuff. It's so delicious. It's called Collagenius, play on words, collagen, but it makes you smart, gets rid of your scatterbrain feeling in the morning without caffeine, which I think is really critical. It's easy to get. It's delicious. I promise you, if you buy it once, you'll buy it again and again and again. Go to shrnetwork.biz/genius. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. And everything that comes out of Nootopia is far above anything else out there. There's people who talk about nootropics. They don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. They have kitchen sink nootropics. They have you got to take 36 pills because there's so many things and it's not even the right amounts and it doesn't work. Don't waste your time. Nootopia is the flagship nootropic company. They're pioneering. They're doing things differently. You're going to find things at Nootopia you won't find anywhere else, and there's a reason. Because Mark has spent his entire life striving to find compounds that improve the way your brain works. That's it. His entire life. He didn't just decide recently, let's go into the nootropic business. He's been doing it his whole life. And he's not as old as me, but there you go.
My first chemistry set at 6 years old.
That's cool. That's cool. My favorite thing was the sulfur, making the fart stuff, the fart gas. That was my mother loved me for that. By the way, God, I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah. So we were talking about collagen. One of the benefits of the marine collagen we use in here, really high in collagen 6 is what it's called, right? VI is it actually has been proven to reduce or eliminate beta amyloid proteins in the brain, which are not the cause of Alzheimer, but they are an indicator of Alzheimer and degenerative cognitive performance. So, yeah, really, really important.
Yeah, the amyloid is interesting. They're misfolded proteins that have no use. Imagine messages that you can't understand and you just roll them up and throw them on the floor and then you have a big pile of them. And while they don't cause Alzheimer's, they do complicate brain function because they limit blood flow. They clog up blood vessels, small blood vessels. They limit blood flow. So anything that you could do to get rid of them. Interestingly, probably 8 years ago, we did a show on amyloidosis in general. We are seeing people who have amyloidosis of the heart that's leading to heart failure.
Wow.
Amyloidosis of the kidneys that's causing kidney failure. And I had a fella, Dr. Stephanie Seneff and her partner, Dr. Anthony Samsel. And he's with the big think tank. And they came on this show and they talked about glyphosate. Glyphosate is a synthetic form of glycine that the body cannot dispose of. So when your body's breaking down all these amino acids and using and either reusing them or disposing of them, glyphosate sticks around. And after I did that show about this phenomenon called amyloidosis, which is happening in your body, Samsel and Senef came on the show and talked about the fact that synthetic glycine from glyphosate causes amyloidosis. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So,
And it blocks glycine from entering the cell, which causes all sorts of problems.
And when you make a protein with glycine, the bonds are intact. When you make a protein with glyphosate, the bonds aren't intact. It's a malfunctioning protein. Yep. So this is a mess. To come full circle to what we were saying before, we're living in a world of chemicals that are destroying the human condition, and no one is going to save you. You need to educate yourself and know what to stay away from. That's the bottom line. There you go. Collagenius is the way, baby. There you go. Check it out. Hey, Mark, thanks for being here today.
So good to see you, Carl. And I'm so glad that you're rocking, man. You know what's great? You're such a testimony to what you do, to what you preach. I love it. And also the fact that you're willing to step out on the edge and do peptide therapy, instantaneous peptide therapy. I mean, that is decision-making, brother.
You want to hear a really funny story? And we'll close the show with this. So my nephew, Timmy, was there. And after I was fully paralyzed, I said to Elisa, I want to take another shot of thymosin beta 4. So Timmy was reconstituting it when the guys came in with the ambulance. and he's standing there and he's handing me a syringe. They go, wait a minute, what are you doing? And I look at the guy and I go, it's he goes, what? I said, it's okay, it's thymosin beta 4. He's like, I don't know what that is. You can't inject. If you inject that, we're leaving. We're not going to put you on the ambulance because we can't take you to the hospital. And that ends up, causing a problem with the therapy they're going to give you. So my nephew said, F you, I'm giving him the shot. They said, we won't take him. I said, no, Timmy, no. I couldn't even talk. When they were taking me down the stairs in the I want to say
the gurney.
No, I was in a wheelchair. These two neighbors were walking by, these two women that walk all the time. And so they're craning their neck and they're watching me. And I go, I had a stroke. like you're so interested in knowing what's going on. So I yelled, even the ambulance driver started laughing because I couldn't talk.
Oh man.
Well, it's in the history books now. All right, brother. Thanks for everything. Thanks for being here. Tell Chassie thank you for her constant care and sending me products that she is going to make me better. Thank you. See you soon, okay?
Got it, brother. Be well.
And that's it. We got a show tomorrow. Stick around. We'll see it. You'll see me again tomorrow. Thanks for being here today.